Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast, where we explore the extraordinary world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week we share inspiring stories and introduce you to remarkable individuals sharing their own transplant stories. Be sure to support the podcast by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. Have a transplant story yourself that you would like to share? Send us an email, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. And check out our new website, giftoflifepodcast.com. As we welcome you to episode 65. Today we meet Jeri Gill, who from watching a YouTube video of a woman who surprised her husband with a baseball card of himself, which on the back of the card that she had tested to be a perfect match and to be his living kidney donor. So this got her thinking she should do something like this. Later, she saw a Facebook post of a woman looking for a kidney. So she investigated a little more. After some thought and getting her family's approval, she went for it. Jeri will share her complete story coming up next. Welcome, Jeri, to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. Let's start things out by you telling us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am 60 years old, and I have 4 grown children, 7 grandchildren, and I donated my left kidney, in August of 2018, and I'm early retired. But I do volunteer work. And in fact, I'm representing Louisiana in the Miss Senior World pageant for the 60s age group. And so I'm very busy with that and preparing for the pageant, but also in my volunteer work and my platform for the pageant, which incidentally is organ donation.
I was going to say that to me, if you have to do a talent portion, you can say, I gave my kidney. That was pretty talented, if you ask me.
That was talent enough.
Well, let me ask you, because I always find these interviews very interesting when I say, why did you do this? How did this idea come up in your mind? Because,
we all have a different story, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's story is so unique, is what I find.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, there was a viral video that came out on Facebook, and it was a woman who was going to donate her kidney to her husband. But the catch was, he didn't even know she was being tested. She kept that quiet. And then she found out, in fact, she was a match. So she was letting him know on the front porch on a swing, and she's videoing it. And if you want to find the video, it's easy to find just by Googling wife gives husband kidney and baseball card. That's how you would find it. And the Winfreys is their last name, Winfrey. So she's going to donate her kidney. He has no clue. And what she does is she gets the Topps company that makes the baseball cards. She had them make up a card with his picture on it, and you flip over. Normally you would have baseball stats on the back. And instead of the stats, it's essentially her announcing that she's going to bat for him.
Oh, wow.
And she's going to be, so it was a very emotional video. And honestly, I don't even think I realized you could live with one kidney until I saw that video. And that was only in 2017, so not all that long ago. And so that's kind of what I think planted the seed for me. And then later in 2017, the end of that year, someone I knew was having a kidney transplant they were receiving a kidney from their brother. And I had not moved forward. I'd been thinking about maybe kidney donation for me now that I learned you could live on one. And then but I hadn't done anything yet. And then when this person I knew was receiving a kidney, then that sort of watered the seed for me. And that's when I decided that December of 2017. In fact, it was the day after Christmas. I was on vacation at the beach and I was lying in bed my first night there. And Mayo Clinic had popped up on my Facebook about where you could sign up to be a donor, a living donor. And so I decided, well, now's as good a time as any to go ahead and fill out the application to be a donor. And so I did. I remember it took a while, about 45 minutes, because I'm doing it on my tiny little phone, lying there. And so I filled it out. And then I ended up coming home from vacation 6 days later. So it was New Year's Day. And I was sitting exactly where I'm sitting here talking to you right now in my house. And I was scrolling through Facebook, and all of a sudden came up in my news feed, popped up this post with this woman from Marksville, Louisiana. And she was saying that God, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but God willing, this would be the year that she receives a kidney. And it was a picture of her face. And it was some sort of like a hospital ID card that they give you with your information if you want to try to seek a living donor on your own. And so that card was posted there. And when I saw that, of course, it stunned me because I was just 6 days ago signing up to be screened as a donor. Now, because it was the holidays, I had not heard back from Mayo Clinic. An automated, we got your application thing, but I hadn't actually heard from a person yet. And it was understandable because it was the holidays. So I asked this woman whose name is Angela. I commented in there and I said, well, I just signed up 6 days ago to be screened as a living donor. How can I look into possibly being your donor? And she gave me her caseworker's name and phone number, which was at Auctioner in New Orleans. And I contacted the caseworker, and 4 vials of blood later, in 16 days, I found out that, in fact, I was a match for her.
Oh, wow. So not only did you just find her out of nowhere,
Right.
you were actually a match for her.
Yes. But you know what? It's as though I already knew I was going to be a match. I mean, I knew I had her blood type, but I knew it was much more involved than that. You've got to be a tissue match for that person. But somehow in my heart, I just knew. And I think it's because I felt like, and I know about algorithms and how things pop up on Facebook, but somehow I just felt like there was more involved there for that particular post to pop up on my Facebook just 6 days later on New Year's Day. She had just posted it 90 minutes before when I saw it. And she had a lot of comments from a lot of people. And some were saying, oh, well, I would donate to you. I want to donate. I'll be your donor. Or, oh, I wish I could donate, but I have this medical condition. I can't donate. Or all of this support and wish I could and so forth. She had a lot of comments like that. And of course, I commented in there what I had done 6 days prior, and she responded very, very quickly and gave me the information. And then it just kind of progressed from there. Once I found out that I was a match, you see that was only the beginning, because I let the transplant center know that I have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I
Now,
let them know.
I'm gonna be a little dumb here because I'm not a medical doctor, but what
Mhm.
is that, if I may ask?
Well, you might think that is a heart condition because of the word tachycardia in the name. But in fact, it's not a heart condition. However, it is a syndrome and it has a multitude of symptoms. And one of the symptoms, in fact, what you would consider the telltale symptom, is going to be tachycardia, racing of the heart upon standing.
Okay.
And so that's hence where it gets the name postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Postural being you stand up, your posture, and then orthostatic, which is where the blood wants to go down into the lower limbs, and then the heart, because the blood vessels, the veins are not constricting as they should, so the blood is pooling down into the legs, and then the heart has to beat faster and faster and harder, trying to pump the blood back up so that the brain gets its supply of blood and the rest of the body. So POTS is a form, the most common form of dysautonomia. And dysautonomia is a failure of the autonomic nervous system. And so these symptoms can range anywhere from the tachycardia to digestion issues to your autonomic nervous system even affects your blood pressure. Everything that happens within your body that you don't think to make these functions happen, they're just automatic. So it can affect anything within the autonomic nervous system. And again, that would be, if I had to guess, probably upwards of 200, maybe more functions of the body. So it's it can be quite involved.
Okay.
And so I let them know from the very first phone call to auctioneer that I have POTS. So I said, I don't know if this is going to disqualify me or not. I need to tell you up front. Well, it turns out apparently they'd never had anyone with POTS wanting to be a living organ donor. So they were kind of scratching their heads on what to do, the transplant team. And they would send me for the usual testing process that anyone would go through, but then they would add extra tests because I had POTS. And it ended up, again, this is just my case because I have POTS, but I ended up with all labs and everything about 70 tests and 6 months later before I was finally cleared by the transplant team. And so I get the phone call, the big call, I finally get it, and it's great news. They're finally agreeing that they will take my kidney, and I get to tell the recipient to be that she's going to receive my kidney, and I also get to pick when it will happen. And I already knew when I wanted it to happen. It would be on the recipient's birthday, which was coming up in about 5 or 6 weeks. So I told the caseworker, I know I want to do this on August the 20th, on her birthday. And she said, oh, well, they only do them on living transplants on Mondays. So she said, let me look at the calendar. So she's looking at the calendar, and lo and behold, it turns out August 20th is a Monday, which is also my oldest daughter's birthday. And so, sure enough, that's when it happened. But let's step back about 10 days before the transplant. That is when Angela and I actually met for the first time. We had only ever communicated on Facebook Messenger. We had never even spoken on the phone.
Oh, wow.
Yes, never even spoken on the phone. She lived in Marksville, Louisiana at the time when all of this began. But by the time of the donation, the transplant, she had moved back to her area where she was from, which is like Tangipahoa Parish, Independence, in that area, which put her much closer to me because I'm in Springfield, Louisiana. So she's only like 30, 40 minutes from me, as opposed to being maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or whatever from me, making it even more convenient. And so we got to meet, and it was her closest family members, my closest family members, and we had a private dining room at a restaurant in Hammond, Louisiana. And we met up there on August the 10th. And I remember so vividly walking in that door. She was already there. And I walked in the door and she stood up and we embraced like two long lost sisters that hadn't seen each other in decades, you know. It was quite a big story. It was in the news. It was televised as well as in the newspapers. And it was just a wonderful experience to finally meet her. And then 10 days later, we all met up with our family teams. I had T-shirts made up. Mine were Team Gill, and hers team, her last name, and all these matching T-shirts. It was really neat. And we showed up like 5 o'clock in the morning, quite early in New Orleans. And of course, they took me in first. I got to see her. We were in rooms side by side, and curtained rooms, I should say, in the pre-op. And I got to walk over to her area and see her and talk with her for a bit before the surgery. And they took me in, got the kidney, and then they were putting her in another OR, and she received the kidney. And I remember it was so exciting. And you've probably heard this before talking to other kidney recipients or donors, is that the most exciting news you want to hear after a kidney transplant is the patient peed.
Yeah.
That that is the good news that everyone wants to hear. And so the kidney was functioning right away, right after it was put in. So it was a really miraculous thing, and it was very exciting to be a part of it. And Angela is just so grateful. Even to this day, what's it been? We're going on 7 years, and still there's not a time that we don't communicate that she's not telling me how grateful that she is.
Now,
And,
yes, yeah, I was going to ask you that because I noticed when I talk to donors and recipients, some have known each other, for years, and some, like you, kind of just out of the blue, someone this lady didn't know decided, hey, this is the girl. I'd like to donate a kidney. Oh, I match. How has that now? Have you guys kind of, like you said, have you bonded like sisters? Because it seems to really bring people together closely.
Yes. And how can you not, when you go through something like that, and all of that testing. Of course, she had to go through all of her testing too. So those 6 months were very much a roller coaster, and we're both going through it, waiting and waiting for hopefully some good news that she'll be able to receive my kidney. So how can you not end up becoming close through all of that? And so yeah, to this day, I mean, I refer to her as my kidney sister. And how could things have been different? Yeah, more often than not, it's not usually a living donor donating to a complete stranger. More often, it's going to be someone that they know. It may be a family member or a close friend, someone from their church or what have you, or from work. But in this case, it happened to me. I didn't go out and seek this woman. I was just going to be a donor for whomever the hospital would choose would be the right person for it. But in this case, it just landed in my lap.
That
That
is
her
a
post, the way it showed up.
Awesome, awesome story. Now, how
Mm.
is your, if someone out there is thinking of donating a kidney, maybe to a complete stranger or to possibly, like you said, a family member or a close friend, how was the recovery? That seems to be the main question everybody wants to know.
Well, I had a different kind of recovery story because I have POTS. For me, I ended up in a POTS, what's called a POTS flare. So I ended up taking longer to recover than the average person. But typically, I hear of people going back to work within like 3 weeks. They're back at work. Um, I I've heard that it's harder for the donor than it is for the recipient on the recovery end. But if you think about it, the recipient is getting a much needed organ.
Hmm.
Yeah, the donor is losing an organ, but then again, of course, over time, the other kidney is going to try to help compensate for the loss of that kidney, which by the way, my numbers are fine. They're not as good as they were with two kidneys, but they're quite, I think, remarkable considering I only have one kidney. And always my numbers have been good after the initial, surgery and getting through the recovery of that and all. After that, my numbers have been just fine. No concerns whatsoever. But yeah, recovery was more difficult, but it was strictly because of the fact that I had POTS and went into a POTS flare.
To me, of course, I don't know that much about POTS, but I'm
Hmm.
thinking, man, it's amazing that they allowed that. But obviously, they knew that it was all going to work out and everything else like that. But
Well, well, I have to say they certainly didn't. They didn't just take the kidney on a whim. They didn't. They did a lot of testing and they had a lot of roundtable meetings amongst the transplant team. So it was not a haphazard decision. That was a very, very thoroughly made decision. And so, yes, I did go into a POTS flare, and it did take me a couple of months to get over the POTS flare. But aside from that, as far as the surgery itself, everything went smoothly, and I have had no complications from the surgery at all, other than that POTS flare.
and what's amazing too, it sounds like that you've been very active when it comes to going out talking about organ donation and things like that. Because I know, like a lot of us recipients, after we receive the gift of life, we go, "Oh, tell me what to do, where to go, what I'm 100% on board because you want to share your good news. But to someone who just donates out of the blue and wanting to, be that advocate for, others is amazing. And I appreciate that from you.
Well, I feel like, and I told Angela this, my recipient, that my donating was only part of the puzzle. That I only have one kidney I can donate, but the bigger picture for me is to motivate, hopefully motivate others to be living kidney or liver donors, living donors, because if I can get, in the course of my lifetime, if I can get 10 or 20 people motivated to actually do the same, that's a whole lot more than me just being able to donate one kidney, right? So that was only one piece of it. And because I did struggle with the POTS flare after surgery, I wasn't able to advocate immediately because I was ill. But once, and actually, I wanted Angela and I to kind of be a team on advocating, donor and recipient duo team of advocating. But um, an organ recipient, as you understand, does have struggles for the rest of their life. They're going to be on medications to prevent rejection, and there's always adjustments being made to medications. They can have problems along the way. Regardless, a living organ is a much more viable, longer lasting organ than that of a deceased donor. And maybe a lot of people don't realize that. I certainly didn't know that until I started doing my research. But I just think it's important to get with the lists. The transplant lists are so long. Over 100,000 people on the list waiting for life-saving organs. And if you notice, that number just never seems to go down.
It goes up if it goes any direction.
Yeah, if it goes in any direction, it climbs. And so if we don't start getting more people motivated to be living donors, we're just not going to see these numbers going down. And so depending on where you live in the country as to where I would suggest one goes to consider and look into being a donor. Generally, if I'm speaking in terms of just nationwide, probably Donate Life America, which is donatelife.org, is where I would send them, or registerme.org if they want to register to be on the donor registry, afterlife donor. Then, of course, in Louisiana, I send them to Donate Life Louisiana. So there's so many. I contacted Mayo Clinic in the beginning because that they have a transplant facility, so you can even start there. But advice that I would give is just do your homework, know what you're getting into, join some social media groups that have other donors involved in those groups where you can get some feedback, ask some questions, know what you're getting into before you go there. And very important, and I did this with my kids because, like I said, I have 4 grown kids. I didn't want to make this decision. I'm single, so I didn't have a husband or significant other to consider. But I did speak to each one of my grown children one on one, not as a group, because I didn't want them influencing one another. But each one I spoke to, told them what I was thinking about doing, and wanted to know if I had their blessing. And for each one, I did. They all gave me their blessing. And then I saved my mother for last. I did.
How did Mom feel about that?
Well, I was really surprised, to say the least. Even my mother was on board for it.
Awesome.
So, and I say it's important to ask, because you really need a support group. You need to know that you have these people on board with you, because you're going to need their help. If it's just support in a emotional or mental way, or if it's support in a physical way after surgery and you need their help to come and take care of you or bring you meals or something, you're going to need that support. So you want to know that everybody's going to be on board with you before you go through something as big as this.
Well, it sounds like you have an amazing story, an amazing family. And of course, you had some problems going in, but what I always tell people that are interested in being a living donor is that the workup that you get,
My goodness.
and you get a workup, let me tell you, but a lot of times people can find things that could be wrong with them that can actually
did with me.
save your life.
They did with me. They found I had median arcuate ligament syndrome. And it's too hard for me to try to explain to you right now what that is. It's known as MALS, MALS. And it's not like it's some life-threatening something or other, but it's something that now my doctors are keeping an eye on annually. If it had not been for the testing that I was going through, I would never have known it until someday it became a problem. So now we keep an eye out for it. So yeah, the workup is extremely thorough. And they say that donors, frankly, are the most healthiest of people because they go through all of that workup,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Now, I have known people that wanted to donate and, in the process find out they cannot. But again, like I said, you find out you have things that normally you'd be going through life and you never even find out. And of course, the recipient's insurance pays for all that. So,
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, and the fact of the matter is, it's not on your dime. It's not even on your insurance company's dime. It's on their insurance company's dime.
yes. Now, before we let you go, anything that maybe we missed or anything you'd like to really make sure that we talk about today?
I just, I guess I would like to say that I'm very pleased with the how should I say this? The person who received my kidney, I couldn't have chosen a more deserving individual. This is a very Christian, loving, caring woman. And so I take great comfort in knowing that such a wonderful woman was given the gift of life again by my kidney. And so I'm just real pleased with that. And there's so many people out there. Even if somebody wanted to be screened to be a donor, you're not committed to doing it. You do have the option to back out at any point in time. In fact, if you're halfway through the process or you're the day before even surgery, they give you an out. They will give you a way out that you can save face. You do not have to say, well, I chickened out. No, they give you a way out by way of a medical reason. They'll give you a way out. So if you get involved in it and then you decide, no, this just really isn't for me, my gut's telling me otherwise, at any time you can change your mind. You're never locked in.
Thank you so much, Jeri, for sharing your story with us today on the Gift of Life podcast. And be sure to join us each week for a new heartfelt episode. And if you have a transplant story, email us giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and don't forget to like and share this episode with family and friends. We appreciate that 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Another podcast you might enjoy is myself, along with former radio partner Bill Stevens. BJ and Bill, the podcast, all on the Podcast Playground Network. We also want to thank them for making this podcast possible. Also, starting next week, we gear up to promote National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month, celebrated in the month of August. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to treasure the extraordinary gift of life.
He was running on empty, heart fading fast. Doctor said, man, you ain't gonna last. But a stranger's kindness, a gift so true, turned the night sky into something new. He got a second chance, he got a brand new spark. Like a freight train rolling back from the dark. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. 15 years later, the road got rough. The fight ain't over when the climb is tough. Needed a kidney, the race was on. Another hero stepped up, kept him strong. Every breath he takes is a tale of hope. One life saved, another can cope. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. Doctor's hands, a donor's grace, running on down to a brand new place. Second chances don't come twice, but when they do, man, they feel so nice. So let's spread the word, let the people know. One yes today lets a miracle grow. You don't need wings just to save a man, just a little love, a helping hand. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. BJ still rockin', still standing tall, thanks to the ones who gave it all. Gift of life, hear the sound. Pass it on, pass it down. The Gift of Life podcast, hosted by BJ Odom. Listen now. Listen now.